One of the main motivations for my research is asking, why are some metropolitan areas large? Why do they have large populations? And why are some smaller? And similarly, why are some metropolitan areas growing very fast? I mean, Austin would be a great example of that, versus some that are growing at a more slow pace. One of the things I think that's been really important over the past 2 decades is that in many metropolitan areas, people have been unwilling to move even further away from their business locations. And essentially, it's straightforward that they want to avoid the long commutes, the long and congested commutes. What we're seeing with hybrid officing is a new opportunity where you can cut your commuting time, and that should allow people, make them willing to live further away from their physical office. One of the most important factors has been the technology that workers are able to remain quite productive while working from home. Some of that technology existed prior to COVID-19, but I think that it wasn't appreciated by employers and workers the extent to which they could remain productive. I think another factor that will support it is the competition for employees, the competition for workers. Businesses, firms compete, fiercely to get talented workers, and so offering this remote option, I think is, you can think of it as, somewhat equivalent to offering a higher salary. This ability to work further away from your office doesn't mean you can work anywhere. But I think what it does allow is this hybrid approach where you're going to spend some time in the office and there'll be some tasks that you do that, lend themselves to working remotely. And so in the end, this frees up workers to live further away from their employer's office than previously, but there's some limit on that. You can't live, I don't think that, I think will need to be able to drive in several times a week. It's just that you're not going to have to drive in 5 times a week. I think what's clear is that hybrid officing, working some days in the physical workspace, in the physical offices of an employer, and some days from home, it lessens the tether to the office. In other words, you can now work, if your commute before, if you were willing to live 10 miles away before, you might be willing to live 20 miles away now. So that's important because it opens lots of land that's lightly settled, where there's lots of room to build new single-family housing, to put some new subdivisions, which for many metropolitan areas wasn't really an option prior to this prospect of hybrid officing. The effect of this hybrid officing on particularly where firms employ, where their workers come into, it's not clear yet. Certainly the extent that workers are, physically living further away from the sort of downtown offices, you might think that would encourage the employers themselves to put some offices further away. But my hypothesis, at least, is that it's going to be the reverse, that this is going to make it easier for businesses to locate their physical offices in central business districts and the sort of centers of metropolitan areas. The advantages of a suburban office, there are 2 key advantages. One is the shorter commutes, and the other is there's lots of surface parking. So, those are 2 congestion factors that, make it so people don't want to work in the center. But you're likely to be relaxing both of those with hybrid working. I mean, first of all, again, even if you were commuting the same number of trips, as there are likely to be less, overall commuters, it's likely that your speeds will go up, your travel times go down. And then, of course, there is the possibility that you'll be making less trips. And finally, if less people are coming in day, that means that the given amount of parking spots in downtowns becomes, that much larger relative to the people who need them. It's going to take some time to really see if this plays out. In other words, right now we have seen a boom in construction in the suburbs, but it's already tampering down because there's a lack of lots that are ready for construction. Clearly, everything is different during the COVID, and so the key thing is what happens when the pandemic is in, thankfully in the rearview mirror. At that point, people are now going to be making decisions based on long-term prospects. And I think even just the prospect that they'll be able to work part of the time from home, that probably is sufficient to start this boom off in single family construction. But really, I think it's going to play out over many years, at least a decade. This is similar to the experience with suburbanization, where that was something that played out over 5 decades. So it takes time to build new houses, to develop the lots, and it's going to take time for employers and workers to figure out, what exactly is the right balance between being physically present in the office and being there remotely.